So before this year, I went through each of the NHL teams and mapped out their projected point totals for the season, and using that gave my predictions for which teams would make the playoffs, miss the playoffs, and have the best chance to win the Stanley Cup. Now that we're a month into the NHL regular season, a lot of those predictions have not gone exactly the way that I thought. Looking right at you, Edmonton. And since I've been tracking each team's progress over the course of this season using a combination of expected goal differential and ELO, meaning teams rising in the rankings faster if they beat better teams than if they just beat up on weaklings. And 5 teams have stood out so far as defying my expectations going into the season, so here are the 5 teams that so far have exceeded preseason expectations. And the first overachieving team I have to talk about is one that I got a lot of shit for when I discussed them in the preseason, the Vancouver Canucks. And it's funny because once again, going into the season, I did predict that the Vancouver Canucks would make the playoffs, but even I didn't think that they would be as good as they are this year. At 12-4-1, the Vancouver Canucks are 3rd in points, but 6th in point percentage as of the recording of this video. And they have beaten a lot of really good teams this year, including some early thumpings of the Edmonton Oilers, a team that most people assumed was going to be pretty good. But 17 games into the season, the Vancouver Canucks are right there with the Vegas Golden Knights as the class of the Pacific Division, a team that also includes the top 3 goal scorers in the NHL, Elias Pettersson, Quinn Hughes, and JT Miller. Now, I have had the Canucks on my fraud watch list, and there's good reason for that, which is that the underlying analytics indicate that the Canucks are probably not going to remain on this pace for very long. They actually have the 6th worst expected goal differential at 5v5, and they have the highest PDO of any team in the NHL this season. In short, the Canucks have been getting lucky. They've gotten some great goaltending performances from Thatcher Demko, and some guys like JT Miller are performing way above their steez. However, it's hard not to be impressed by the Canucks. They've been winning games, and even though I put this team on the fraud watch and I maintain that they should still be there, Quinn Hughes and Elias Pettersson are both absolute beasts. Those guys are legit. Now, my number 2 overachieving team is actually the second best team in the Eastern Conference, that being the New York Rangers. With an 11-2-1 record in their first 14 games and 821 points percentage, the Rangers and Bruins are in a class of themselves. But in my opinion, the New York Rangers have higher quality wins on the year than the Boston Bruins, including a victory over those Canucks and the Hurricanes and the Edmonton Oilers. Now, the analytics are holding the Rangers back a bit, but they're still graded out as one of the top teams in the NHL, whereas before the season I had them around 7th or 8th, meaning I thought that they would be good, but not division-winning good. And with Carolina's struggles and the Rangers off to a hot start, they are 100% in the driver's seat right now. And the scariest part is that the Rangers were missing Adam Fox for a good chunk of this season, so with him back in the lineup, they could be an absolute menace, as long as Panarin keeps scoring and Shesterkin keeps that net clean. Now, number 3 up, I got the LA Kings. I was very low on the Kings going into this year. I thought that they were going to miss the playoffs entirely and be towards the bottom of the West. I didn't trust their goaltending, and I didn't trust their defense, and oh my god, do I have to eat my words on that regard. Not only are the LA Kings good defensively, they might be the best team in the NHL defensively. They have the lowest expected goals against in the NHL at 5-on-5. Cam Talbot has also had a massive bounce-back year in net. He's tied for 6th in goals saved above expected this year. But it's not just Talbot, it's a full defensive effort, and the LA Kings are actually 3rd in Corsi percent at 5v5 this year. Drew Doughty's obviously been a big catalyst back there, but young Jordan Spence in his 3rd NHL season, his first real full one with the Kings, has been an absolute revelation on the back end, one of the best shutdown defensemen in the entire NHL, as he is 2nd in individual defensemen in that Corsi 4 percentage. Between that stout defense and guys like Kempe, Fiala, and Kopitar all stepping up to contribute offensively, the LA Kings have certainly surprised me in a good way. 3rd up is a team that is still, in my opinion, pretty bad, but they have earned my respect, and that's the Philadelphia Flyers. Going into this year, I thought that the Flyers were going to be one of the worst teams in the NHL. I had them pegged as the 3rd worst team coming into the preseason, and right now they're sitting at a respectable 8-7-1 record. That would put them just outside of the playoffs as they started right now, but they do have a top 10 expected goal differential on the year. That's in large part due to Carter Hart returning to form and just generally getting a lot of depth scoring throughout their lineup. Even though my modeling still has them as missing the playoffs, and right now that's where they're positioned, they're at least not as bad as I thought going into this year, and with their prospect that they're starting to accumulate, this is an organization that could be on the rise in the next few years, much as that pains me to say it. And last but not least, the final team that has outperformed my preseason expectations, and the one that I was the most wrong about because I had them missing the playoffs and right now they're one of the best teams in the NHL, is the Florida Panthers. I know it was blasphemy for me to say that the defending Eastern Conference champions were going to miss the playoffs this year. I had them ranked outside of the top 20 teams at 23rd going into this year, but all they've done this year is win, win, win no matter what. At 11-5-1, they are 6th overall in points and 7th in point percentage, dipping on the heels of the Boston Bruins. The underlying analytics are also pretty solid. They're top 10 in expected goal differential at 5v5, and actually number 1 in expected goal differential in all situations, meaning that their special teams have been absolutely stellar this year. But actually, and shockingly, their power play and PK numbers are both pretty pedestrian, so that's actually indicative that this Florida Panthers team could get even better going longer into the year as their power play and PK start to match the expected production. And kind of like the Kings, it's been a collective effort with guys like Sam Reinhart, Alex Barkov, and Matthew Tkachuk leading the way up front. On the back end, Oliver Ekman-Larsson has actually had a renaissance in Florida, with Montour and Ekblad being out of the lineup, but Florida still needs their goaltending situation to get resolved. Bobrovsky has been good this year, but he hasn't been great. If he can flip that switch and get back to the playoff Bob, or even like 70% of that, Florida could have the makings of another deep run coming this year.